My name is Dr. Ian Storch. I'm a board-certified gastroenterologist and osteopathic physician, and you are listening to DO or Do Not. If you are interested in joining our team or have suggestions or comments, please contact us at doordonotpodcast.com. Share our link with your friends and like us on Apple Podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. We hope you enjoy this episode.
In today's episode, we interview Kansas City University College of Osteopathic Medicine alumni Dr. Denise Wunderler. Dr. Wunderler is a board-certified family practice physician who trained at the Cleveland Clinic and did a sports medicine fellowship. She will speak to us about her initial love for orthopedics and how 6 months into her orthopedic residency, she decided that surgery was not for her. She will discuss her transition into family practice and how she started working with Team USA Volleyball during her sports medicine fellowship. She will discuss with us her current position at Harley Davidson and what it's like balancing a two-physician household. Finally, she will discuss the tragic loss of her daughter to SUDC and how she started a non-for-profit in Vienna's memory. This is an amazing story you won't want to miss. Dr. Wunderler, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Dr. Stork. Really nice to meet you.
All right. So is it okay if I call you Denise?
Of course.
All right,
Can I call you
perfect.
Ian?
Please, please. You know, I always like talking about how we found you. So we're always trying to promote osteopathic medicine and show great DOs, and we want to work with the comms. And a lot of times we'll get deans, and dean interviews are great, more for pre-meds, I think, to get an idea of the school. But when it comes to residents and practicing osteopathic physicians, sometimes not so interesting. And I think even for the pre-meds, to see a great doctor that graduated from the comm really highlights the school, really relates back to how great job the school did at educating. So we reached out to Kansas City and we asked them for a great osteopathic physician that graduated from their program, and they gave us your information.
That's really special. I'm humbled by that. That's amazing.
And then obviously I looked over what you've done and I was like, this really sounds like it would be a great interview. Can you just start Wunderler? It's a great name. Yeah. Dr. Loveless that we've interviewed, probably not such a good name, but we've also had Dr. Champion, a great name. And I think your
Nice.
name's up there.
I appreciate that.
What kind of name is Wunderler?
So it has Austrian heritage. And so it is my given name when I was born. So it's my maiden name, and I never changed it when I got married. It's from Austria.
We'll just start. You are a practicing sports medicine physician, is that right?
Yes.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you do and where you're working right now?
Current job, which is really, I think, an incredible job. I work at the Harley Davidson plant in York, Pennsylvania, and I work for a company called Unify Health Services. And so they contract with Harley. So I've been at Harley now for almost 3 years, and it's a very unique job. Sports medicine training, like you mentioned, I did family medicine residency and then a sports medicine fellowship. And so I've always been in jobs where it's been orthopedically driven. So always orthopedic offices working alongside with orthopedic surgeons. So this is definitely a different type of position that I wanted to explore. But essentially, I go on site twice a week. Okay. And there may be employees I need to see. Possibly there are some injuries I need to take care of. And then I also do remote work for them. So it's really how I look at it, the industrial athlete, because it's a very physical job. And so I'll take care of their injuries. I also take care of travel medicine. So you'll have Harley employees that are traveling to all their different sites around the world, whether it's Brazil or India, Thailand, and then I'll advise them on travel and possibly vaccines that they need or medications or just various travel advice. So that's something that I was never involved with, except maybe in residency a little bit. And I love to travel. I love discussing that. It's another little added perk to my job. And also part of my position is I'm also involved with the investigative process regarding these injuries. So I'll work with the safety team, the ergonomic team, the engineers, and actually go out into the plant because our clinic is right within the plant itself. And it's amazing. We have paramedics and EMTs, nurses, athletic trainers, physical therapy assistants. We have case managers, and I'm the doc there. We have personal trainers as well because we have a fitness center. So it's really well thought out area for the employees. I think Harley really cares about the employees. So it's a very impressive place. So I'm really thankful to have that type of position where then I can just keep my steel-toed shoes on. I put my safety glasses on. I go out into the plant and see these amazing machines being created from just flat pieces of metal to the finished product. And I'm able to go out there, investigate the injuries, really learn about the process of whether it's installing the powertrain, which is the engine, or their shipping process of how you put these huge motorcycles on what's called skids and how they would load them into the trucks. And just the whole process is just so fascinating to me. And I've always been interested in cars in the past and never interested in motorcycles, but this obviously piqued my interest in motorcycles. So now that's kind of my new thing. It's such an enjoyable job. And every employee slash patient is different. And I love that too, because that's part of the challenge.
That sounds so beyond cool. Very, very cool.
Very
And
interesting.
very interesting. So we recently interviewed a doctor that was doing from the military aeronautics and really focusing though on safety in the workplace. And it sounds like you have a role in that. Did you have to have special training outside of sports medicine to do that, or is it kind of on the job training?
Really, for me, it was on the job training. And so, of course, this is occupational medicine. And so when I looked at this particular ad for this job, I didn't know it was at Harley Davidson. All I knew is that it was a large manufacturing plant in York, PA. And initially actually started off as a remote position for maybe a few hours a week. So it was kind of thing where I just kind of took the chance. And really what's incredible to me is when I look back over 3 years now, what started off as just maybe 2 to 3 to 4 hours a week remote job turned into 20 hours a week on site twice a week. They want more of my time. It's incredible how it's really transitioned into an amazing, incredible job that really works well for me, my family, all my other outside interests. They're very flexible with me. I'm flexible with them. So it really works out well. But to get back to your original question regarding training, in this particular aspect, they asked for someone who's a musculoskeletal specialist. And they said, if you do not have any occupational medicine training, we will teach you. I said, bingo, perfect, because I love to learn and I love to be able to incorporate what I already know into a new light. So it was very, very interesting position to me. And so, but that's how that worked out. They trained me.
And then, of course, like I'm sure everybody listening is thinking, do you get a motorcycle thrown in as part of your package? And if not, do you get swag? How does that work?
So, right. Well, the actual Harley employees get a discount for their bikes. I think it's maybe 20%. So now as far as swag, so I do get some free t-shirts. Like I did this fitness kind of type of promotion. So you do a certain number of workouts and then you get a cool t-shirt with the motorcycle on it and everything. Oh, Rev Fit is what it's called, Rev Fit. And then a new bike came out, the CVO, so a couple of years ago. So I was given that shirt. So everyone in the plant, even though we're contractors, I feel like we're also kind of included into as a Harley employee by the company, which is really wonderful. And every Christmas we'll get some type of a gift. Like the one year we received a 50th anniversary bag because York had the 50th. It was for the York plant. So got a nice duffel bag that my husband uses sometimes for travel and I use a lot. And in addition to my USA volleyball gear and stuff with bags, and then a little blanket. So yes, so the answer is we do get some free swag.
Very cool. So now you just mentioned volleyball. So let's transition into that. I noticed that you're involved in Team USA volleyball and some other volleyball organizations. So can you tell us what your role is with those organizations and how that fits in with your current job?
So it all pretty much started when I was a sports medicine fellow. So 2008 to 2009, I was in Cleveland. And actually, it was Dr. Dyke and Dr. Boyajian. They're out of the Kansas City school, and I'm still in touch with both of them. And so there was an opportunity to go to Sandy, Utah, the beginning of my fellowship, to do about 2 weeks of a USA Volleyball Boys Junior Olympic tournament. So it was maybe 34 nets going on at the same time, all these balls flying all over the place, this big expo center. And he said, hey, Denise, would you like to come out to do this? I said, wow, that sounds like an incredible opportunity. I asked my program director. He said, absolutely, take this opportunity because it's an amazing one. I said, great. So went out there and, worked, got there at 6 a.m. to the court, left at 10 p.m. every night, worked really hard, worked with, there's a bunch of athletic trainers there. So essentially, Dr. Dyke made me the assistant medical director. And how it turned out was in the end, then he said, Denise, I would really like to recommend you for the team physician program for USA Volleyball. So essentially, those 2 weeks or so turned into kind of like an audition, which of course I never thought of it like that at all. I would just wanted to learn and do my best and have fun and work really hard. And so it kind of turned into that. And so since I was kind of young in the process, I had to convince volleyball that I was worth it, that I was good enough because of just being a fellow at that time. And so I was able to convince them, however I did it at the time with an application and things. So since then, I've been traveling. I've been to Peru, Guatemala, Canada, Cuba, all with the junior national teams. So two the women's team, two men's teams. And pretty much I would gather all the medical gear because the hope is that I keep the athletes out of any type of local medical clinic. I want to be able to take care of everything. So how I was able to do that, I must say, like I've been I think, very fortunate, lucky, however we want to look at this, and that I've been able to keep everyone just kind of within our realm of treating them in the hotel room versus an outside clinic. I would always take a really big bag with me of just a lot of gear and medications and just things that I feel that I potentially could need, because you may be able to buy items in other countries, but it would be very difficult to find them and you don't know the quality. So I would always try to prepare as best I could here. And so I would also kind of act as their athletic trainer as well. So without being an athletic trainer, I would practice on my husband. I would, make sure I can tape ankles and wrists and all the basic stuff that I would need to learn to be able to do that type of a job, since they only traveled with a physician. So I was kind of everything. So if they needed ice, which was all the time, I kind of took care of everything that I possibly could for them, not just medical duties, but any duties that the team needed. I was an extra set of hands and an extra person to be able to help them really be successful. And being proactive, I think, is really what helped out dramatically. And I would have individual meetings with each of the athletes from the very start, even just 5 minutes, and say, okay, let's go through your medical history. I don't like surprises. So I want to know, you have a certain medical condition going on and we need to be prepared. You have the medication you need, whatever. And then also just have that open line of communication and say, if you start having any type of GI upset, that if your stomach is starting to bother you, tell me immediately. So I already had a protocol for that. I really didn't have any major GI problems, which, if you're going to Guatemala and Peru, and Cuba, you potentially can have those issues. So we were always very fortunate. And it's always the highlight of whatever I'm doing, just being able to be an ambassador for the USA. And also, as long as our athletes were being taken care of, I would help other athletes as well, because there are other teams who weren't fortunate to be able to travel with a medical person. So then I would also help other athletes as well if they needed my help.
Sounds fun. And if you ever need a team gastroenterologist, you can recommend me. I'd love to do that too.
Absolutely.
Can you tell us a little bit about Team Vienna? I know that's one of the things that you're very involved in. Can you tell us a little bit about that organization and how you founded it?
Thank you. Yes. So it all started, sadly, with the tragic loss of our youngest daughter, Vienna. We have 3 kids. Our youngest is Vienna, and we were living in New Jersey at the time. And so my husband and I were coming home from a wedding, actually, and our 3 kids were being watched by our wonderful babysitter. We trusted, of course, 100%. And we got the frantic phone call that 7:02 Vienna stopped breathing. Essentially, she was watching TV and stopped breathing. And we still don't have a cause now, more than 7 years later. So we learned the very next day that if everything came out normal from Vienna's autopsy and toxicology and all these different studies, that she would be categorized as SUDC, or sudden unexplained death in childhood. And we had no idea what this was. My husband's a physician as well. I'm not sure if you knew that. He's a DO as well. He went to OU. So he's emergency medicine. I'm sports medicine. And the fact that now we're in the funeral home looking at urns for our little girl and learning for the first time what SUDC was and saying, oh my gosh, we never even heard of this. What do you mean this is kind of like SIDS? SIDS are the babies less than 1 who die without an explanation. Vienna was almost 3. This absolutely makes no sense. And of course, whenever you have a death, you just automatically assume that they're going to be able to find the cause. In fact, they didn't. That was very shocking to us. And so obviously, very devastating, and it still is to this day. I mean, every day we think about Vienna, and she's always involved with our life every single day, our good days, our bad days, and everywhere in between. So since then, her death of November 12, 2017, I've always wanted to do various things to keep her memory alive, to spread the word of SUDC because of the fact that no one really heard of this when it happened to us. And so I really felt that that was something that I needed to do. But honestly, I must say, initially, I didn't know if I really wanted to talk about it. Like I knew I wanted to talk about Vienna. I didn't know how big it should be, could be. I didn't really think about that at all. I just wanted to honor my daughter. And really, I just didn't want people to forget about her. That was really like the main situation. And so we did a walk a few months later. And really, I said, oh, hey, let's just create a Team Vienna. It wasn't a nonprofit at the time, a 501c3. We were in New Jersey. I said, oh, well, let me just look for walks and a run. So I found one in New Jersey in Seabright. It was perfect because it fundraised for money for children's programs in the Red Bank, New Jersey area. I said, this is perfect. Vienna would love this. And so then that May signed up. I created Team Vienna and create all these shirts. And honestly, I thought maybe 20 people would come for Team Vienna. It was already an established race. And here, over 200 people came strictly for Team Vienna. It was incredible. People came out in the wind, the rain. It was there at the beach. So it was cold that morning, kids in strollers. It was really incredible how many people came out to support. People driving 6 hours away, family members and friends really made a huge effort to be there. So that kind of made me think, okay, well, more people care about this than just us. This is a larger situation here. So over the years, then it just kind of made sense to create a nonprofit because I wanted to do bigger things. So initially I did Vienna roses. So I'd buy pink roses and I created a card. So I still do that to this day. And I've been amazed how people love that. I thought it would be just a once or twice and done thing, but people really enjoyed that part of it. And I thought it's a beautiful way to spread Vienna sunshine. And pretty much the card says briefly about Vienna, smile and keep this rose, or smile and pass it on. It would honor her memory to do so, because I also don't want people to feel obligated to keep the rose. Maybe some people don't like flowers. I don't want them to feel obligated. So I don't want anyone to feel obligated with anything that we do. Many things have happened over the course of years. Can go into some of those other things too, between lectures and walks and pink towers in Homedale, New Jersey for her birthday every January as an awareness tool. Billboards in Eastern Pennsylvania that were run for 2 years as donated time from Lamar, which is incredible. A cousin of mine set that up. And here they just offered another year of donated time of these billboards. So that's created, I think, a lot more focus on Vienna and SUDC. So thankful for all that. And obviously the film, which I know we'll get into as well.
First of all, that's amazing. Obvious, horrible. Like I'm going to get sick, and attitude on the whole thing is amazing, and the way you've responded to it. My question is, when this first happened, as you're telling the story, obviously it was different when it happened, I'm sure. I always think about patients. Sometimes they go through a bad experience. You have a bad disease. The doctors take as good a care of them as they can, and they end up coming out a little angry at, say, the doctor, right? And some of it's understandable, but some of it's not. Like, why does somebody have to get blamed? But I can't imagine, I have two small children, if this happened to me, that I wouldn't be blaming someone when it happened, whether it be blaming the babysitter, or blaming myself, or blaming my spouse, or blaming somebody, because this is something that just shouldn't have happened and is hard to rationalize. Did you go through that, and how did you get past that?
Honestly, what was interesting is that I never blamed anybody. I don't think my husband did either, because it was such an unexplained thing. I mean, we never thought negatively about our babysitter or really anything, because we felt confident with the medical examiner, and also we're also involved with 4 different research studies. And so we feel that really a lot of things are really being looked into closely. But of course, there is that guilt where, did we do something wrong? Was there something that we did or didn't do that caused this? So absolutely, that's definitely in our minds at times. I feel like I've had some reassurance that we didn't do anything wrong, but there is still that doubt in my mind, that was there something that should have done, maybe should not have done.
Again, it doesn't sound like you did anything. It doesn't sound like anything could have been done, but it's just things. I can't imagine how hard this must have been. Tell us about the documentary.
Thank you. Well, first of all, I have our poster, so I know I'm on the blur, but I want to.
So
There's
cute.
my girl. It's Vienna. But the documentary is called Vienna, Suddenly an Angel, and it's a 20-minute short documentary that we've been filming over the last 3 years. I thought about the idea back 5 years ago or so, and just kind of came to fruition, and we met the right people, and it really turned out to be something what I think is quite special and impactful. But it's about Vienna, her story, but also our journey since she passed away. So, and even before, because of course there's also video footage of our family before she passed away, of course. So, but it's about our journey from grief, which we still have that. So I can't even say we didn't leave the grief. The grief is still there. But taking my grief, and turning into something that's actionable, and turning into something that is positive, that can help other people, hoping that one day that this gets uncovered in terms of what the causes are. I think there's going to be more than one cause, and hopefully being able to prevent this, and letting other families know who've lost children that they're not alone, or others who have lost, it could be an adult child. They're not alone, that there are others who are going through this process in life. And it's very challenging, very difficult. It's still very devastating, but how there are various factors in life that make us want to continue to do as much as we can to honor Vienna and to spread the good word. And we also have two other surviving kids. And one thing that I read a lot of things. I read a lot right after Vienna passed away. And one paper I did read, it had to do with what helps parents after such a tragic event like this. And one of the things was a sense of purpose. So that's where Team Vienna comes in. And the other thing was surviving children. So for me, that really helped catapult me, like, okay, maybe I'm doing the right thing with what I'm doing, that this is a good path so I can still live what I feel is a good hearted, fruitful life. I hope to live another 50 years to be able to do as much as I can to really push this cause forward. And one of the things with the film too is that, of course, there is a special dedication to Vienna, obviously, but also I dedicate the film to all SUDC kids and their families, because I want them to know that they're super important and that we are not going to forget about our kids. Our kids will never be forgotten. And that's one of the things that I think a lot of us parents, if not all of us, feel that others will forget about our kids. And I want them to know that in my world, as much as I can do, our kids will never be forgotten. So you'll see in the beginning of the film, we do have pictures of other children in the beginning of the film, and those parents are so thankful to be able to have their child's picture in the film. And we even have two other SUDC moms who give interviews regarding what happened to them. So trying to incorporate others as well. So in the end, it's really a message of love and hope and inspiration and education. And even I have one of my film shirts has Vienna down the middle, and it has motivated, determined, driven, educated, inspired. These are all the things that I hope that people feel at the end of the film. We're in our first film festival at the end of this month. So this is really exciting. So the Garden State Film Festival is in New Jersey. We're going to be in Asbury Park, end of March, so March 29th. This is going to be our world premiere of our film. So we submitted our film. It was accepted amazingly. And so it's going to be shown to many, many people at the film festival. So I'm very excited to be able to be there to talk to other filmmakers. This is also the first time I've ever been involved with a film. So this is a really different situation to get involved with this. So I'm so thankful and fortunate that now we'll be able to essentially reach different audiences. It's all general public, physicians. That's how I give my lectures all across the country and even into other countries as well. But trying to raise the awareness and talk about Vienna's story. But the fact now the film world will be able to learn about Vienna in this other way. I feel very, very thankful to have the opportunity. We're going to also submit to other film festivals as well, all over the country, maybe who knows, even to other countries as well, and just to see, how many more people we can educate on this. And one of the things we talk about in the film is our Vienna's Day of International SUDC Awareness, where it's this day in May. It's always the Saturday after Mother's Day in the US, where people from all the continents, all 7 continents represent Team Vienna in some way, which has been really amazing. That's been going on now 5 or 6 years. and in Antarctica, which is incredible. I never knew anybody down there. And really, I was connected with the initial person a good 5-6 years ago. And since then, they've been passing the torch. So they're making sure that someone is representing Antarctica every year. And actually, the paramedic who was there a couple of years ago, she's now a medical student at the Kansas City school. And so I actually met her for the first time in October. So I was actually able to thank her in person. June, she's incredible, and so just so thankful that she was able to help propagate the Antarctica piece. So just a lot of, I think, trying to do a lot of interesting, different things. So if anyone has any ideas, I'm all ears, because child and death really don't belong in the same sentence ever. And so I want people to be okay to talk about this. And I think if there's more interesting activities that we're doing, then I'm hoping more will be interested and want to get involved.
Denise, thank you for sharing that with us. We're going to shift gears a little bit and hear a little bit about how you got to where you are now. So can you tell us where you grew up, where you went to college, and when you decided you wanted to be a doctor?
Well, I was born in New Brunswick, New Jersey, actually. And so my dad was in the Air Force. He's 20 years Air Force retiree. And so we traveled around the country really for the first 9 years of my life. So it was Missouri, Montana, Nevada, Alaska, Nebraska. And so my parents are originally from PA, Eastern Pennsylvania, Northampton. So we moved back there when I was 9, continued on through Northampton High School there, and then went to Muhlenberg College, which is a local college there in Allentown, Pennsylvania. Played basketball for 4 years there, pre-med, biology major. Then, and I've decided I will share this, I didn't get into medical school the first time around. And it was very devastating, very, very devastating, because that was my plan. And so then I saw this opportunity to work at a pharmaceutical company, Merck in New Jersey. And so thankful for that. I would start off as a temporary job. But this is where, as one of my quotes I created myself, I haven't seen this anywhere else, so I'm just going to take credit for it because I say it all the time. I told my husband, on my tombstone, please put, she gave the world a chance to say yes. So essentially giving people the chance to say yes to things. So opportunities are things. So I took this temporary job and it turned into a permanent job. And so then I worked there at Merck for 6 years in New Jersey, what I always claim as my golden years. Those 6 years, I was in my 20s, lots of friends. We had a beach house together in the summer, me and 19 of my closest buddies, right? At LBI, and then went to the city, New York City, very frequently, concerts. So kind of living the life of the 20-year-old. I didn't make much money, but man, I felt like I was making $1 million. Like I felt like I was like having an amazing, it was amazing. And then I got into medical school. It was time where I said, okay, I need to tackle this beast known as the MCAT. So I had everything else, all the activities and straight A's and what everybody has. And I was like, I think I'm a good candidate. But my MCAT said otherwise. You need to have that number. So I tried really hard. I took 2 different courses to get the highest score I could. Finally, it was good enough. And so I was able to gain entrance to a bunch of different schools. Very thankful for that. I actually had a choice, which was amazing to me. So then early on, it was November, previous year of when I would matriculate. So I entered 2000 in August or so. So I gained entrance November the previous year. So it was really wonderful. And I loved the school. I felt very comfortable there, very friendly. I felt that they really cared about the students. I also felt from the students who were there a camaraderie. It wasn't all super competitive, because I had heard a lot of stories, a lot of negative stories from all over different schools, no particular one, but just how people could be very cutthroat and not nice to each other. And I said, absolutely not. I don't want anything to do with that. This is a beast. This is a bear. I want to be able to tackle it the best way I can with hopefully a team approach, which is essentially then what it turned out to be. I feel like I had a really wonderful group of students. I think also what was interesting is that I was really a non-traditional student. I entered at 27. And I was actually the average age of my class. So they're, obviously older and younger. And we had students in my class from all different walks of life, from someone with a PhD in pharmacology to art majors to past truck drivers to past nurses, because sometimes life gets in the way. Maybe things happen in life and you wanted to go to medical school, but it had to be delayed because of all different reasons. And that's kind of what happened to some of those in my class. So it made for a very eclectic group, I think. And I'm still in touch with a lot of them, actually. And one couple, they're amazing. They actually put together a rafting trip and a camping trip So, but the year that we graduated, there were like maybe 20 of us. We went on this trip that they organized, and it was just amazing. I really enjoyed my time there in Kansas City and the rotation. So, of course, as you know, like the first 2 years are typically either in the classroom, and then third year I was mostly in Ohio, and then fourth year you could just stay in one area, but I love to travel. So really my fourth year of medical school was a big road trip across the country. So I did 4 week rotations. So I would do a 4 week rotation, say in Montana, Big Sky Ski Resort. So I worked there at the ski mountain every day, snowboarded for half the day, and then I saw patients the other half of the day. It was pretty amazing rotation. And then I would have some travel in between. So maybe it was the weekend plus the following week and the weekend to be able to travel. So maybe I had 8, 9 days to travel. Maybe I was going to Colorado next. So I try to make it so I wasn't going crisscross from Montana to Florida. I planned my trip across the country. I even did a rotation in Alaska. So I was there for a month in the bush, seeing Yupik Eskimo. And so I even went to Igiagig, which is a small little Eskimo town, for a few days. And then my main rotation was at Dillingham, in Dillingham, Alaska, which you cannot drive there. It's only by plane. It's 340 air miles southwest of Anchorage. So only by plane or by boat. So that was very fascinating to be there, and just really connected so much with those people. Of course, living there in the 70s with my parents in Anchorage for those 3 years always spurred my interest. And then my oldest sister stayed in Alaska. So I've been back, multiple times to visit her. She's now in Montana. But so I always had this love of Alaska, and I still do. But getting back to my rotations, and I would do 2 months in Colorado. Of course, I always had to be during the ski season, so I could see the ski injuries in Denver, but then also be able to have some time to go to the ski mountains and go and have some fun on the mountains on the weekends whenever I was off. Florida for a month, Missouri for a month, Ohio. I even went to Peru for my independent study month and stayed with a Peruvian family there, taking Spanish classes for 3 weeks, and then traveled for a week on my own. So I was mainly in Cusco, which is kind of like the jumping point to Machu Picchu. So I kind of checked out a bunch of the ruins there, met friends from Australia. They just came to visit us here last year. They came to our wedding, my husband and I, our wedding, what, 17 or however many years ago it is. Went to Arequipa, which I wanted to go there because of the volcanoes. So essentially it really gave me an opportunity to tackle all these other interests that I have, not just medicine. So, but it was really an amazing year because I could incorporate this great learning from of hospital system. I was going to the large places in whether it was Ohio or Oregon, OHSU in Portland. I was there for 2 months, to the small little medical clinic in Igiagig, Alaska, to everywhere in between. So where sometimes, for the smaller places, of course, you're first assist. I mean, you're a medical student or you're a resident. You're right there with the surgeon. You're running the camera. They allowed me to drill the tunnels for ACLs and for ACL surgeries, knee surgeries and clavicle fractures. And Denise drilled this hole and put the screw in. And just, I feel like I had such an amazing overall diversified type of an experience that I really thoroughly loved. And for people who like to travel, I would recommend it if you can. But the beauty is that my school didn't have its own hospital. So for me, that was a positive. Other people wanted to stay in one area, but for me, it was a huge positive because, again, my love of travel. So it really, I got to tackle so many different parts of my life that really make me tick. And yeah, it was really a fun year, and I learned a lot too.
That's amazing. I want to do that. I mean, like, I'm listening to you. That sounds so much better than my experience sitting at a county hospital and going home and just passing out. So that's spectacular. Tell us a little bit about when you knew you wanted to do family practice. You already mentioned to us, obviously, in college that you were doing some athletics. Were you always interested in sports medicine? And then
Yes.
tell us about your choice. How did you decide not to go to Alaska for your residency, and how did you pick the program that you did?
I wanted more of a general background in medicine before I specialized in sports, because I knew sports medicine was always my love. Even back in high school, being an athlete, I played basketball, I was in track, cross country, and then basketball in college, getting injured, had my first ACL surgery when I was in college. So I was very intrigued, the human body. In high school is really when I said to myself, you know what, I think I'd love to become a physician. And one of the main reasons was because I felt that was, for me, the best way to get all this amazing knowledge presented to me, so I can learn as much as I possibly could about this miracle, really, the human body. And so I really wanted to learn as much as possible about that. Sports medicine, I felt, because of being an athlete, I felt I could really relate to the athletes. I was always very interested in the injuries because I had a lot of them. So I could look at it, I felt from my own personal perspective, from an athlete's perspective, but then also then as a physician. So I felt that I could really help out. I felt the most in the world of medicine because of those backgrounds. So, but I must say, always interested in sports med. I tailored all my rotations to that mostly. But then I got lured into orthopedic surgery. And so it was my end of my third year. I did an incredible rotation with a surgeon up in Portland, Oregon. He let me do a ton of stuff. I was drilling just, oh my goodness, like the stuff he allowed me to do under his direct guidance, obviously, very safe. I was always very cautious and everything. So, never wanting to do anything wrong, obviously, super important stuff. And so he said, Denise, if you want to pursue orthopedic surgery, if you get into a program, I want you to come back and work with me as my partner. I was like, oh, this would be amazing. I love Portland, Oregon, just the town, so friendly, the hiking, just the volcano. I climbed the volcano there with some of my buddies when we were there, Mount Hood. So it was just amazing. I said, oh gosh, this would be incredible. So I got into a residency and started an orthopedic surgery path. And I didn't love all the aspects of it. And so I thought, you know what? I think I may need to change my path and go back to my roots of sports med, which was always my initial love. So it took about 1 month. I'm like, I don't think that this is for me. I don't love this type of work. I'd rather be on the sideline, or I don't want to be, honestly, I felt like I was locked in an OR, which is very fascinating for like a month or 2 months at a time. But once I would think, oh, this is going to be my life, and I didn't like that aspect of it. One of my favorite rotations there actually was Shriners Hospital. And those surgeons were incredible. And they were, I think, the most shocked when I said that I was leaving the program. Because they said, we thought you could work here with us in pediatric ortho. Very, very nice of everyone to say and all. But really, I said, okay, I'm going to leave after 6 months. And even the program said, Denise, you want to stay for a year? And I said, no. I said, what's the purpose? I said, I need to move on. I need to do some other things. So then that's when I enter another road trip because now I need to look at programs. So I decided to take 3 months off. And so now I'm looking at family medicine programs that has a lot of sports med incorporated, or at least a fellowship that was somehow connected, whether it was loosely connected or strongly connected. So that's when I kind of did another road trip for a few months, then decided that I would love to do a program, South Point Hospital, which is part of the Cleveland Clinic Health System. So Cleveland Clinic Health System has, at the time was maybe 6 or something like that, but all these various hospitals, the big house, CCF, and then also the smaller hospitals that are all incorporated within the Cleveland Clinic Health System. So then I chose South Point, felt very comfortable there. So since I had already a rotating internship and then did the first 6 months of ortho, I already had the internship completed. And so then I said, okay, well, I don't want any credit for any of the stuff I did. I want 2 full years so I can do ophthalmology. I can do all these other rotations that I've never been able to. I want the time. So I did those 2 years of family med. And then because I was off cycle, and the sports medicine fellowship wasn't going to start until that, I think it was probably like July. I think it goes like July to June, I believe. So then I had those 3 months off. So then, of course, what do? Of course, I moved closer to my fellowship there in Cleveland, but also trip to Nepal for 3 weeks. Didn't have the money, but I had the time. Thankful I did. It was a life-changing experience trekking in Nepal. I got so much more out of that trip than I ever would have dreamt. I mean, my main focus was I wanted to see Everest with my own eyes. And what I got out of that trip was, oh my gosh, like I could probably write a book about what I got out of that trip, between the amazing Nepalese people, the music that I love, the culture, learning about their way of life. And it's really life-changing. So thankful for that. But yeah, going back to family medicine, that's why I chose that program. I felt very comfortable and they were very welcoming to me being now a non-traditional resident, really.
I think you bring up such a great point that I try to talk to students about sometimes, and even my son who's interested in medicine. I think a lot of times students, it's understandable when they get into medical school that people want to be a dermatologist or an orthopedist. They're super competitive. They want to get to the top rung. So they pick something or they say something when they haven't even experienced it yet that they feel is the pinnacle of medicine. And always when I talk to pre-meds and medical students, and again, my son, I always explain that the pinnacle of medicine is individual. It sounds silly, but it's individual for the person. And the person that wins, or the doctor that wins, is a doctor that wakes up every day and is happy going to work and likes what they do. Because money doesn't buy happiness, obviously. I mean, that's cliche, but true.
Yeah.
So you could say orthopedic is the top of the food chain, and you're quote unquote downshifting into family practice. Did people think you were crazy at that point? What were people saying to you? And you
Yes.
knew you were
So,
doing the right thing, obviously, because you did it.
right, right. And no, all good points. And you're absolutely right. I mean, absolutely, yes. Some people are like, Denise, you're kind of crazy that you want to leave. Are you sure you want to leave? And that's the thing where I really had to think closely and really step outside and look at everything and try to be really look at it really super closely for what I wanted. Because one of the things was, am I letting down other people? Am I letting down my fellow residents because I got one of the spots? So am I letting down someone else who could have gotten that spot, but I took the spot and now I'm leaving? So that was a thought. Another thought was, if I leave, there's no way I'll ever get into another program because I already showed my colors of, look, you already left one program. Why the heck would we even another program ever accept me into another orthopedic program? So I knew if I leave, there's no coming back. So I had to be 1,000% sure of my decision. And also, I got to say it too, being a female in medicine, and there are very, very few females in orthopedics, I also kind of felt I don't want to let down other potential female orthopedic surgeons where somehow this would impact negatively on them. So I had all these things that were going in my head. Denise, is this really the right thing for me to do? Is this going to make me happy? So yeah, it wasn't an easy decision. It really wasn't. Like when I really looked at it in totality of all these different aspects, and but once I kind of made the decision, I said, you know what? I feel for my own self, I need to make this decision for myself. I can't make this decision for the world, for other females, for other residents. This is my life. And I had to step back and say, Denise, this is your life. You need to make the decision for yourself. And my husband, well, he was my fiance at the time, but always fully supportive in whatever I felt I needed to do. My parents, always a million supportive from day one of everything. My parents always saying, Denise, go for it, follow your dreams, don't give up, and you got this, and always super supportive family. My parents are incredible. I give them a lot of credit for any of the successes that I have. I give to them because they're the ones who gave me that foundation to feel that I can succeed, but I can also fail. And my dad and mom would always say, Denise, when you fall down, you dust yourself off, get back in the race. Just get back in. Don't stay down too long. Cry, do whatever you got to do, get all mad, whatever, but then get back into the race. And so I feel that because of their encouragement over my life, I've been able to tackle these various aspects, positive and negative, and continue on and maybe finding other doors that were much better for me. And I think for sports med, I mean, getting back to my roots of sports med, that was a perfect fit. It was perfect. So I was so happy to get back into that. And I must say, of all the moments in my life where I know 100% I made the right decision, when I walked out of that hospital that day, when I left my ortho residency, I said, this is absolutely the right decision.
I have chills. That's great. I love that.
I knew it. I handed in my badge, my pager. I had no regrets. I said to myself, this is the right thing. I'm looking forward to the rest of my career and really doing something that I really super feel passionate about. Very, very thankful for the opportunities that I had and learning all the orthopedics that I did. I think that also just made me a better sports medicine physician because I could speak from a surgeon's perspective from that experience that I did have. So I feel very privileged that I did have that opportunity to be able to learn what I did.
Amazing. All right, Denise, I'm going to pivot one more time and touch a little bit on, you mentioned that your husband's also a physician and you have two small children right now. Talk to us a little bit about a two-physician family with kids. Like, how do you make that work?
It can be very challenging for sure. But after Vienna passed away in 2017, I kind of reevaluated, as I think we all would do with any type of majorly life-changing event. I reevaluated looking at my life and things. And so I wanted to then work part-time. And so I did that. So that has been a blessing. So my husband works full-time emergency medicine through his job, the benefits, all that other stuff that we need as a family. And he working today, the long 12-hour shifts, very stressful. And then on my end, on the part-time doc, I still practice my craft. I feel extremely fulfilled. I love my work at Harley Davidson, and it's so interesting and challenging. I'm so thankful for the flexibility of that position. And then also allows me to do the nonprofit work, the film, give lectures, So I'm able then to have all these other things. I also coach my kids too. So besides Vienna, who should be 10 years old, I also have our other two kids, Vivian and Vaughn, and they're 14, going to be 15, so 14 and 12. And so I coach their basketball teams, track teams. So I'm also very involved with the community as well and volunteering at the schools. And I've gotten to know a lot of people here. We moved here to PA about 4 years ago. And so that's been very positive too. So really that balance is always a struggle, but because I work part-time and I have such a flexible job, it makes it work. Because otherwise, yeah, if you have two physicians working full-time and my friends who are full-time dual physician parents and 2, 3 young kids, and gosh, very, very challenging. I know for a fact they miss a lot because they're not getting out of clinic on time, not seeing their kids' recitals or their basketball games or whatever. And it's very challenging. So I feel that I've finally reached the balance that I need in my life where I can be the best mom I can be the best physician I can be the best advocate for Vienna and SUDC, and kind of bring all these pieces together. I've learned to become a pretty good multitasker now. So I feel like I do about 10 things at once, which can be overwhelming at times. But I'm thankful for support of my husband too, to be able to allow me to really wear all these different hats. If he didn't have a stable job, I wouldn't have this opportunity to be able to do all these other things that I am.
Teamwork makes the dream work, right? It sounds like you have a
Absolutely.
good team.
And I think we're an amazing team. And I think we balance each other out. And especially with our grief journey since we lost Vienna, there are some days that I'm having a good day, he's bad, having not so good day, and vice versa. It's hard then to balance that because I may be having a horrible day and he may be having a good day. I don't want to bring him down and vice versa. So, it's always that balance. It's always trying to read each other the best we can and sometimes stay away from each other when we need to, just to make sure that, okay, like we're everyone's good and as long as we take care of our kids and do what we need to do in this life. So yeah, but I mean, we make it work. And I think we're an amazing team. Yeah.
Denise, thank you so much for spending time with us today. I have one grand finale question that we ask all of our listeners, which is, can you give us one piece of advice that you were given from someone else that you feel has been impactful on your career and that you would like to share with our listeners?
I would say, well, number one, don't give up. I mean, from someone else, I have my own thought that I would also like to give, just a brief, piece of advice. Really, don't give up. And I mean, I heard it from many different people. It was my parents, whether it was other physicians. And I'll tell you, when I didn't get in the first time, I was very devastated. I remember thinking, well, I want to do something in healthcare. Maybe I thought, well, maybe I'll do physical therapy. Because at the time, it was thought that was a little easier to get into. I have no idea whether it was or what it is now. I have no idea. But at the time, now more than 20 years ago, that was the thought. I remember seeing this ophthalmologist who I shadowed for a few days. I remember seeing him at the gym when I was doing my rehab for probably my second knee surgery for ACL. And I remember telling him, and he seemed kind of disappointed that I wasn't going to pursue medicine. And so that made me think like, maybe others who are in the profession see something that I don't see. And so then that really kind of also pushed me forward to say, okay, don't give up. So I think number one, that was one. I want to thank all the physicians who told me that, my parents who told me, don't give up. Don't give up. If it's what you really want, keep going, do whatever you can to improve your application. And my advice for others would be, you can change your mind. You can absolutely change your mind. Too many people think that they need to decide early on, even in college. I even see it in high schools where my ninth grader, oh, everyone's saying, you need to make sure you get into a good college and this and that and studies. Make sure you do all your activities. And I said, you know what? Try to just enjoy the ride. Enjoy the ride. Take each wave as it comes. Manage it the best that you can, but enjoy your life and try not, of course, now it's hard to, try to tell kids don't get stressed, but so many kids are more stressed now than I think they ever were for all different reasons. But I think telling kids that they can change their mind and that's okay. And it's okay if you need to take a little bit of time off to get your bearings back again or whatever, that's okay too. Just make sure that you're doing something that's productive that will hopefully improve yourself for the next go round or whatever you're going to do next. But yeah, and I'm happy for all the different twists and turns that have kind of happened in my life when it comes down to education and things like that. I think it makes us stronger people. And I think it also allows us to meet more interesting people that way too. and learn from everybody. That's one thing I always tell our kids too, is you learn from every single person in this life. Sometimes you learn how not to be, but most important, you learn how to be. So I try to instill that in them as well. But thank you so much for having me. This has really been a great discussion. Really, thank you so much for all your questions.
Thank you for being with us. And I think, Kansas City should definitely be proud of helping to bring you to where you are today. And I think your story is great, and we really appreciate you sharing it with us.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And the last thing I want to share is our website. In case anybody wants to get more information about our nonprofit and the Garden State Film Festival, it's simply www.vienna.team. So Vienna, and she was named after the capital of Austria, Vienna. So Vienna.team. So thanks again. Hope to see you all at some event in the future. But please, if everyone can tell their friend today, take 30 seconds to say, look, I learned about SUDCs today. Incorporates kids 1 to 18 years old who die of unexplained causes. That would mean a lot and would really help propel the cause forward. So thanks again to everybody for listening. Thank you so much, Dr. Storch, for all your very insightful and thoughtful questions.
This concludes our episode of Do or Do Not. Send all inquiries, comments, suggestions, and even let us know if there's someone you want us to interview to doordonotpodcast@gmail.com. Don't forget to like us on Facebook at Do or Do Not Podcast for updates. If you enjoyed our podcast, please share it with your classmates and administration. We have plenty of more interviews lined up, and we're excited to share them with you. This is Tian Yu Shea. Thank you guys so much for listening to Do or Do Not.